My name's Linda Everest, and I am the section lead of the Microbiology Safety and Spoilage Group here at Camden. Over the last few weeks, I've noticed that there's been quite a few inquiries come through to us about the change in legislation that's going to happen next year with regards to the EU 2005 microbiological criteria for foodstuffs. This criteria document covers a range of foodstuffs and a range of microorganisms. But what is this change and why is it happening? Well, the change relates to Listeria in particular, and this organism has had an increase in cases and outbreaks in the EU, and there's been a 15.9% increase in 2021 to 2022 of Listeria cases. This is an issue because whilst for most healthy individuals, Listeria food poisoning would be mild and you would recover fairly quickly, for some groups, particularly those that are vulnerable, so pregnant women, young people, the elderly, and immunocompromised people, is a very, very serious illness, and it's got a very high mortality rate compared to some of the other food poisoning organisms. So that's why it's been changed. The change that's happening is to do with Listeria specifically, and at the moment there are 3 categories, and there will remain 3 categories. So 1.1 is for ready-to-eat foods, for special medical purposes and for infants. So this criteria will remain at not detected in 25 grams for product placed on the shelf during their shelf life. There's category 1.3. So this relates to products where they will not support the growth of Listeria. And there's factors like low pH, low water activity that will prevent the growth. If you can demonstrate and you know Listeria will not grow, then a level of 100 CFU per gram is deemed as being acceptable. So product must not exceed a level of 100 at when it's placed on the market, so at any point throughout shelf life. The change that's happening is for category 1.2. So these are for ready-to-eat products that can support the growth of Listeria, and there's 2 sections within this. So there's one section that if you have data to show that Listeria won't grow throughout shelf life, then a level of 100 is the maximum and cannot be exceeded by law. If you don't have any data, or you have data and in fact it shows that Listeria will grow to a level of over 100, then at the moment the legislation is not detected in 25 grams at the point that the product is put onto the shelf. So basically when the food business operator releases the product, so at the point of production. This is going to change to, like the other categories, and will be when the product is placed on the shelf at any point throughout shelf life. So it means that the legislation will now apply the whole way through shelf life. So what will the impact be of this? Well, at the moment, the onus is very much on the food manufacturer to be able to prove that Listeria is not present, so not detected in 25 grams at the point that it's produced. But going forward, this will change and will apply throughout shelf life. So that will mean that the whole of the food chain will need to now be showing compliance, so that there cannot be any Listeria present at the end of shelf life or not detected in 25 grams. And we know that at the point of manufacture, the product is probably going to have been stored at 5 degrees or lower, because that's the industry target and standard that they tend to use. But we also know that in food poisoning outbreaks, temperature abuse can play a part of this, and Listeria growth is obviously much quicker at the higher temperatures. So now any shelf life or challenge tests that are carried out have to be realistic and have to be done under realistic conditions, taking into account the fact that, for example, consumers' fridges will not be running at such a low temperature as the food manufacturers. So what do you need to do? Well, at the moment, we don't know whether the legislation, how the FSA in the UK is going to handle this, how they're going to ask their environmental health officers, so their competent authorities, to tackle this. But of course, this is an EU legislation, so any product that is on sale in the EU will need to comply. So what needs to be done is data needs to be generated, and any shelf life challenge test data needs to take into account start and end of life. So what can we do to help you? Well, we can have a look at the data, see what you've got, advise on what may be required to make sure that you're compliant with this. We can carry out shelf life trials, and we can advise on the best test to carry out and how you should do this. And also we've got UCAS accreditation in Listeria challenge testing, including following the EURL, so that's the European Reference Laboratory for Listeria's protocol on challenge testing, which is the recommended protocol that should be followed. So what are your next steps? If you want any help or advice or are interested in this, please get in touch.